Imagine spending 100 hours making what you genuinely believe is your best video. The editing is sharp, the audio is clean, the pacing feels right. You finally hit publish, and YouTube barely shows it to anyone. Meanwhile, another creator uploads something that honestly looks less polished than yours, and it takes off. If you've ever wondered whether you're simply missing one invisible piece while everyone else seems to know the rules, that's exactly what we're unpacking today. Because one creator proposed a fascinating way to think about the YouTube algorithm, not as some mysterious AI, but as a 10-digit combination lock. And here's the uncomfortable part. You can line up 9 of those dials perfectly, and if the last one is even slightly off, the lock never opens. No partial credit, no close enough, just nothing.
And that's the idea that grabbed me. Because most creators hear that and immediately think, so YouTube built a lock to keep people out. I'm not convinced that's what's actually happening.
Really?
I don't think it's a lock. I think it's math.
Explain that.
Imagine every video has to pass 10 independent tests. Maybe your topic works, your thumbnail works, your retention is good, your audience is right. One by one, those probabilities stack together. Now multiply all 10. Even if you're pretty good at most of them, your overall chance can collapse incredibly fast. Nobody has to actively reject your video. The numbers do it automatically.
That's a completely different way of looking at it, because if it's a malicious gatekeeper, you spend your time trying to beat the system. If it's probability, you spend your time improving the variables. Those are two completely different strategies.
Exactly. And that distinction matters far beyond YouTube. Because this isn't really about YouTube, it's about attention. If you're launching a SaaS product, writing marketing emails, building a personal brand, or trying to convince people to care about anything, you're competing inside the exact same attention economy. The platform changes, human psychology doesn't.
Which means we don't just want to list the 10 dials like a checklist. That's the easy part. The interesting question is, why do those dials exist in the first place? What problem is YouTube actually trying to solve? Because once you understand the incentives, the algorithm suddenly starts looking much less mysterious.
Exactly. And it all starts with one question. What does a machine learning system value more than almost anything else? Predictability. That's where dial 1 begins. Michael Lamas calls it the smart gamble.
I actually love that name because it sounds backwards. Most creators believe originality is always rewarded. The transcript argues almost the opposite.
Not that originality is bad, but pure originality is risky. Think about it from YouTube's perspective. If someone uploads something nobody has ever seen before, there's no historical data, no audience behavior, no prediction model. The platform has to guess, and platforms hate guessing.
So instead of reinventing the wheel, the smart gamble says, combine ideas the audience has already proven they care about with something that's uniquely yours. You're reducing uncertainty without becoming a copy.
Exactly. You're making the platform's prediction job easier. And that's an important theme you'll notice keeps showing up. Almost every dial, in one way or another, is about reducing uncertainty.
Which naturally leads to dial 2, the attention fight, because even the smartest idea in the world doesn't matter if nobody clicks.
And here's what most creators completely forget. They're designing thumbnails while sitting at a desk, wide awake, thinking analytically. Their audience isn't.
Picture the real viewer. It's 11:30 at night. They've worked all day. They're lying in bed. Their brain is running on almost no energy. They're not searching for intellectual challenges. They're looking for the easiest possible reason to care.
And they're not just choosing between your video and another creator. They're choosing between your thumbnail, Mr. Beast, Netflix, TikTok, Instagram, or simply putting the phone down and going to sleep. That's the competition, not your niche, everything.
So if dial 1 is about reducing uncertainty, dial 2 is where creators actually go to war. Because before YouTube can measure retention, before it can measure watch time, it has to answer one simple question. Does somebody click?
And I think creators massively underestimate how difficult that moment really is. You're not competing inside your niche, you're competing against literally everything on that person's screen.
Exactly. Let's picture the moment. It's almost midnight. Someone has spent 10 hours at work. Their attention is exhausted. They're scrolling almost on instinct. Now your thumbnail appears. You have maybe 1 second, maybe less.
Which means your packaging isn't decoration, it's survival.
And that's why Michael Lamas separates the idea itself from the packaging. Because a brilliant video with weak packaging never gets the opportunity to prove it's brilliant.
Here's what most people get wrong. They think thumbnails exist to explain the video. They don't. They exist to earn the next click. The explanation comes later.
Quick question. Have you ever watched a fantastic video only after completely ignoring it for weeks? The content didn't change, the packaging did, or your perception of it did. That should tell us something.
Exactly. Packaging isn't about tricking people. It's about reducing uncertainty. The faster someone understands why they should care, the easier it becomes for the platform to predict they'll click.
And prediction is everything, because every prediction the algorithm makes costs resources.
That's the part almost nobody talks about. Every recommendation is a prediction. Every prediction requires computation, and computation isn't free.
Which brings us to something I found fascinating in the transcript. Dial 7, the one audience. Most people think niche advice is about branding. I don't think that's the real reason at all.
Neither do I. Imagine you've spent a year making videos about AI tools. The platform has learned exactly who enjoys your content. It knows what those viewers watch, what they click, how long they stay, what they ignore. That's incredibly valuable information.
Now imagine tomorrow you upload travel vlogs.
Suddenly, every prediction YouTube has been making becomes unreliable. It has to start testing completely different viewers, different interests, different behavior patterns, different expectations.
So when creators say, the algorithm punished me, maybe that's the wrong way to think about it. The algorithm isn't angry, it just lost confidence.
Exactly. Confidence is the real currency. The more predictable your audience becomes, the easier your next upload is to recommend.
And that's a subtle but important distinction. Consistency isn't just about your subscribers recognizing you, it's about helping YouTube recognize your audience.
Let's use a business example. Say a software company spends 12 months building a channel around technical tutorials. Very specific audience, very predictable behavior. Then leadership decides, you know what? Let's make office culture videos instead.
The office videos might actually be entertaining. That's not the issue.
Exactly. The issue is that YouTube suddenly has to answer a completely different question. Who is this for now? That uncertainty forces the platform back into exploration mode.
I love the analogy from the transcript. Think about a grocery store. Imagine the staff completely rearranged every aisle. Every single morning, bread moves, milk moves, vegetables move, everything changes.
Customers would waste time, employees would waste time, the whole system becomes inefficient.
That's essentially what happens when creators constantly pivot. The platform has to reorganize its understanding of your audience. And at YouTube's scale, that becomes expensive.
Which leads naturally into Dial 8, riding the wave.
This one is fascinating because it completely changes how advanced creators research ideas. They're not asking, what do I feel like making today? They're asking, what is demand telling me right now?
According to the transcript, many experienced creators use browser extensions that monitor view velocity. Not total views, views per hour.
That's a huge difference. A 6-month-old video suddenly jumping from 20 views an hour to 500 isn't old content anymore. It's a live signal. People are actively looking for that topic today.
Instead of trying to predict demand yourself, you're measuring demand while it's happening. That's a completely different mindset.
But here's the question nobody asks. What happens when thousands of creators discover exactly the same wave at exactly the same time?
You get overcrowding, everyone races to publish the same video, everyone uses similar titles, similar thumbnails, similar hooks.
Which sounds bad for creators, but it's actually fantastic for YouTube. Because suddenly, the platform has an enormous inventory of relevant content ready for people searching that topic.
The platform wins. The creators now compete inside that wave, which means packaging becomes even more important than before.
So we've gone from reducing uncertainty to earning the click, to understanding why consistency matters, to measuring demand in real time. But all of that only gets someone through the front door. It doesn't explain why some creators can hold attention effortlessly, while others lose viewers in the first 30 seconds.
And that's where this conversation becomes much less about algorithms and much more about psychology, because the next two dials might actually be the most important ones in the entire framework.
So far, we've talked almost entirely about the platform, its predictions, its incentives, its economics. But here's the mistake I think a lot of creators make. They spend all their time trying to understand the algorithm and almost none trying to understand the person watching.
Exactly. Because YouTube doesn't experience your content. Humans do. And that's where dial 3 begins. The psychology play.
I actually think this is where most channels either break through or quietly plateau forever.
Because demographics aren't enough anymore. Knowing your audience is between 25 and 45, or interested in AI, doesn't tell you why they'll stop scrolling.
The real question is, what frustration are they carrying around that they haven't been able to solve? Not what they search for, what they feel.
That's the difference. Two creators can make videos about exactly the same AI tool. One teaches features. The other speaks directly to the anxiety behind the search. I'm spending 10 hours editing videos and nobody watches them. Suddenly, it's no longer about software. It's about relief.
People rarely click because they want information. They click because they want a feeling, hope, confidence, relief, curiosity, validation. Information is simply the vehicle.
Think about the last YouTube video you watched all the way through. Was it because the information was incredible? Or because it perfectly described something you've been struggling with? There's a big difference.
Once you understand that, dial 4 starts making much more sense, the tension machine.
This is probably the most misunderstood concept in the entire framework. People hear build tension and immediately think clickbait.
But that's not really what tension is. Good tension is simply giving the brain an unanswered question. You promise a payoff, but you delay it just enough that people naturally want to keep watching.
Think about great documentaries or great podcasts. They're constantly answering one question while quietly introducing the next one. Your curiosity never completely settles.
Exactly. You close one loop while opening another. The audience feels like they're making continuous progress.
And from YouTube's perspective, that shows up as retention.
Which explains why the platform rewards it. Not because YouTube cares about storytelling, but because storytelling keeps people watching.
But here's where I think the framework gets really interesting. Because tension has an enemy: believability.
That's dial 5. And honestly, I think it's one of the hardest balances any creator has to learn.
Imagine watching someone who's technically perfect. Every sentence lands. Every cliffhanger is calculated. Every emotional beat is optimized. At first, it's impressive. Eventually, it starts feeling mechanical.
You begin noticing the formula instead of the message.
Exactly. You stop listening. You start analyzing. That's dangerous.
Because trust doesn't disappear all at once. It slowly leaks away. One overly dramatic hook, one exaggerated claim, one forced emotional moment at a time.
And in a few minutes, we're going to get to the two dials that completely changed how I think about long-term channel growth. Because they explain why some creators become impossible to replace, while others become trapped chasing analytics forever.
Here's what fascinates me. The platform can measure watch time. It can measure click-through rate. It can measure returning viewers, but it can't directly measure trust.
Exactly. Trust is invisible. The algorithm only sees behavior. Humans experience intention.
Which creates a strange incentive. If manipulating attention improves today's metrics, the system rewards it, even if it quietly damages tomorrow's relationship with the audience.
That's the paradox. You can optimize for today's graph while accidentally destroying next year's community.
And that's why I don't think retention by itself is the goal.
Retention is the symptom. Trust is the cause.
That's such an important distinction, because if you only chase retention, you start asking, how do I keep people watching? But if you chase trust, you ask, how do I make people genuinely care? Those are completely different creative decisions.
Here's a thought experiment. Imagine AI becomes good enough tomorrow to write technically perfect YouTube scripts. Perfect hooks, perfect pacing, perfect retention curves. Would people automatically stop watching human creators? I don't think so.
Neither do I, because humans don't just evaluate information, they evaluate authenticity.
Exactly. An AI might perfectly execute the smart gamble. It might build incredible thumbnails. It might structure flawless tension. But if something feels emotionally manufactured, people sense it remarkably quickly.
It's the uncanny valley of communication. Nothing is obviously wrong, yet something feels slightly off.
Which means the creator is constantly walking a tightrope. You need enough structure to keep attention, without becoming so optimized that people stop believing there's a real person behind the words.
And maybe that's the biggest takeaway from these middle dials. The algorithm rewards behavior. People reward belief. The best creators somehow satisfy both.
Exactly. And once you've built that belief, everything changes. Because now we're moving away from individual videos and into something much bigger. What happens when viewers stop choosing your content and start actively looking for it?
Everything we've talked about so far helps explain why a single video succeeds. But what separates a creator people occasionally watch from one they actively wait for? That's where Dial 6 comes in. Content obsession.
I love that name because it sounds extreme, but if you think about your favorite creators, it's actually accurate. You don't just enjoy their videos, you anticipate them.
Exactly. There's a huge difference between someone thinking, oh, they uploaded, and someone thinking, I've been waiting for this all week.
And here's where I slightly disagree with the transcript. I don't think obsession comes from perfect optimization.
Where do you think it comes from?
Identity. A creator consistently seeing the world in a way nobody else does. When viewers know they'll get a perspective they can't get anywhere else, they stop watching individual videos. They start following the creator.
That's such an important distinction, because once someone trusts your perspective, they'll often watch videos on topics they weren't even interested in. Not because of the topic, because of you.
Exactly. And ironically, that's something the algorithm can't directly measure. It only sees the behavior that trust creates. Fast clicks, long watch times, returning viewers, binge sessions. The system sees the output. It never sees the relationship underneath.
Think about this. If your audience would only watch one specific topic, do you really have an audience, or do you just have search traffic?
That's a difficult question, because search can grow a channel, but obsession builds one.
And that leads naturally into Dial 9, the pull effect. This might be one of the least talked about ideas in the entire framework.
Because most creators think the goal is to make one satisfying video. YouTube has a different goal. Keep people watching.
Exactly. Every minute someone spends on YouTube is a minute they aren't spending on Netflix, TikTok, Instagram, or playing a game. The competition isn't another creator. It's every other form of entertainment.
Which means YouTube doesn't just reward great videos. It rewards creators who naturally lead viewers into another video, and another, and another.
The transcript describes it almost like architecture. Your video isn't supposed to be a dead end, it's a hallway. One room leading naturally into the next.
When you think about it like that, the recommendation system makes much more sense. YouTube isn't simply ranking quality, it's ranking contribution. How much does this creator extend a viewing session?
And whether we like it or not, that aligns perfectly with YouTube's business model. The longer people stay, the stronger the platform becomes.
Which brings us to the final dial. Raise the bar.
This one can sound discouraging until you understand why it exists.
Every result you're seeing today, good or bad, is usually the consequence of work you did months ago. The dashboard is always looking backwards.
Meanwhile, everyone else is improving too. Editing tools become easier. AI gets better. Production becomes cheaper. Creators learn faster. The average quality across the platform keeps rising.
So standing still is actually moving backwards.
But I think there's an important warning here, because constantly chasing higher production value, more tension, more optimization, can slowly pull you away from what made people care in the first place.
Exactly. This is where the whole framework loops back on itself. If you spend every week reacting to dashboards, copying trends, and chasing whatever currently performs, You risk weakening the psychological connection that created your audience.
Which is why I think the framework only becomes useful when you see all 10 dials together, not as 10 hacks, as 10 competing forces.
Sometimes they reinforce each other, sometimes they fight each other. Better tension can hurt believability. Greater originality increases uncertainty. Following trends can weaken identity. Growing a channel is constantly balancing trade-offs, not maximizing one metric.
So maybe the biggest misconception isn't that creators don't understand the algorithm. Maybe it's that they think the algorithm is the customer. It isn't. People are.
Exactly. The algorithm is simply translating human behavior into probabilities. Lose the human, and eventually the probabilities disappear too.
When you zoom out, the 10-dial lock stops looking like a checklist. It becomes a map of incentives. Some are driven by psychology, some by economics, some by machine learning, but together they explain why creating consistently successful content is so difficult.
And maybe the biggest takeaway is this. The platform doesn't reward effort. It rewards outcomes. Nobody gets bonus points for spending 100 hours editing a video. The only question the system asks is, did real people choose it? And did they stay?
Which leaves us with one question I still can't completely answer. If creators spend years learning to think exactly the way the algorithm wants them to think, at what point are they building their own business? And at what point are they simply becoming highly optimized employees of the platform?
And I think that's the question every creator should wrestle with. Because understanding the system is one thing. Keeping your independence inside it might be the harder challenge.